In today's session, as I promised, this is a part 2 of the session we had a few weeks ago, in which we covered the multi-layer approach to security. And we saw how some of the layers will actually help you in protecting versus a lot of the attack vectors that hackers use to get in, right? So this is what we're going to do today. Just for the ones that don't know me, I see a few names that are not as familiar as others. My name is Andre. I'm the cybersecurity community leader here at Heimdal. You have my contacts on screen if you want to add on LinkedIn, or if you have any questions, you have my emails. Been in Heimdal for over 6 years now and did over 1,000 implementations for Heimdal products as part of a larger cybersecurity policy. Now, what we're going to talk about today, as mentioned, we're going to do a deep dive into the Heimdal XDR, as much as we can cover, of course, in 45 minutes to an hour, right? Cyber trivia, of course, we're going to play cyber trivia so that we keep things fun. And also questions are welcomed along the way. Even if we have a dedicated time for Q&A or ask me anything at the end, please feel free to ask questions along the way, because I will start to pivot the content the way you ask the questions. So the more questions are, the fun and the more interactive is the session itself. Good. So we're gonna start with a cyber trivia. There was a recent hack in the news that has shaken America a bit. And the question I have for you guys, just to keep this top of mind, do you know how much data did LockBit exfiltrate from the Federal Reserve? And this is in air quotes, Federal Reserve. So do you guys know how much data they exfiltrated? Let's see, use the questions box and share. Okay, Daniel, Sven, I'm not reading them out loud because I might tip off other people. Daniel, you're right, by the way. Okay, let's see, anybody else? Okay, Kevin, you're right as well. Soren, you're a bit off. 33 times less, Soren. That's how much you're off. So this gives you the opportunity to respond correctly. You can take that number and multiply it by 33. Let's see. Come on, put the response so that I can have the justification to award you in the cyber trivia. I think Soren is a very fair player. Okay, yeah, you're pretty close. So guys, 33 terabytes of data has been exfiltrated by LockBit from the Federal Reserve. However, it seems that due to recent discoveries, they actually did not hack the Federal Reserve itself. They actually hacked a bank that is a part of the Federal Reserve Trust. So that's why I put the air quotes. A lot of the cyber community has been saying that they're just trying to get notoriety back after a lot of their infrastructure was taken down. By the way, the winners to this one, we have Soren, we have Kevin, and we have Daniel, which was the first one that put the correct response. But I love it because you guys can't see your responses, only I can see them. I hope you can't see each other's responses, by the way. That would mess up my games over here. And this comes from directly the LockBit dark web blog. Now, why I asked you this question is because we need to understand how dangerous it is for cyber attacks, breaches, or any type of malicious cyber action in today's world. The risk is huge. They didn't even encrypt the data. They couldn't. So what they did is just they took it out. But then that begs another question. Why were they capable of exfiltrating 33 terabytes of data that was done over 3 days? Thank you, Daniel, for that note. Daniel even said the process took 3 days and nobody noticed that data was being exfiltrated for 3 days. Why is this possible, right? That's why we're talking about the multi-layers approach, because anything like that should be immediately detected. Or any type of unauthorized data transferring type of platform, be it online, be it physical by application, whatever, be it like web-based or be it a physical application, because everything will transfer online. They will need the internet, right? Instead of the other option is by putting a drive in the computer and taking the data out. So anything like that should be immediately detected and stopped, right? Now, Kevin is asking if there's any plans for a DLP module in Heimdal. I don't think so, Kevin. It's just my my honest idea right now, because a DLP is a monster in itself. So I don't think Heimdal, which is the expertise is securing endpoints and a little bit above endpoints, would actually go for that. But yeah, we never know, right? We'll see what the future holds. Now, knowing that even data as important as sensitive banking information of Americans, and by the way, you can't even imagine how many records were there in those 33 terabytes of data. I believe they can store over 6.5 million records in 1 terabyte. So imagine how many people were affected by this. Now, this basically means that we need to be careful, not only in our organization, we need to be careful what our partners are doing, and so on and so forth. Now, the only way we can stay as safe as possible is using that multi-layered approach. For the people that didn't join the previous webinar, just a quick reminder, we talked about attack vectors and the defense layers, and we talked about 11 attack vectors that are most commonly used, and these are initial entry points. And we also talked about 11 defense layers. Now, all of these defense layers would add on top of your security. However, if you have them scattered, it would also complicate your teams. Now, we did do all these connections, which attack vector is protected by which layer, and so on and so forth. So for that, if you want a full deep dive on that, just visit the previous webinar and you'll see all the details. And as mentioned, we talked about 11 and 11. Now, I get that Heimdal doesn't do all of these, like user awareness of principle of least privilege, or vulnerability scanning, or system configuration and hardening, right? However, we cover most of these and a few more, right? Now, when we look at these defense layers, basically the conclusion was the last time that if somebody tries to break in and you have all of these separate, they will have a hard job, but not impossible. But if you unify these and put them together, it's like you trying to to tear with your bare hands a full stack of 500 pieces of printing paper. Now, there are some very strong people in the world that can do that, but it's pretty darn impossible to do it for a regular person, right? Now, this is exactly what Heimdal does. Is basically we take all of these scattered layers that you normally have within environments, which create a lot of overhead. For example, you want a network security or a DNS security. What do? You do research first. Then you do about a few meetings with about 5 vendors. Then you take at least 2, if not 3 vendors in proof of concept. Then after the proof of concept, you choose one for which you do some reports, right? Because you need to do a comparison report between the 3 you have proof of concepts. Then with that, you do the implementation, which takes time. You do the training on your team and so on and so forth. You have a support team, you have a vendor representative like an account manager, customer success manager. Imagine having all these layers of defense, like I don't know how many, 11 layers of defense or 8 layers or 10 layers of defense from different companies. That means you have 30 POCs to do, you have 10 implementations to do, you have 10 people to work with as an account manager, and so on and so forth. You have 10 consoles to connect to, 10 agents running and consuming resources from your computer, and so on and so forth, which is a bit counterintuitive and counterproductive considering today's environment, right? We need to move fast. Yeah, as Julia says over here, I was about to say Sven again. Julia is undercover. He has a different name in today's webinar. 10 support contacts, exactly. So instead of us working faster, and come on, we're in the age that you open the phone, you're hungry, and you order something in 20 minutes, it arrives at your doorstep, right? We need to move fast. So what are we going to do today? I'm gonna take you guys through all the Heimdal components as much as the time allows us to do, and we will go through the attack surface that we discussed in the previous webinar, but only by looking at the Heimdal components, right? So with that being said, slides are over. Now we're gonna move to the either the dashboard or a virtual machine. Let's put the dashboard first on top. I will connect here. By the way, for those who don't know, this is the Heimdal portal, which has all those layers that we discussed that you've seen on the screen earlier, and you can manage all of them from one single portal. Access can be tailored by claims, role-based access control, so you can limit that between your teams and segregate responsibilities as much as you need. Now, we said we're going to start with the entry vectors, and then we're going to move to more advanced vectors that are in the later stage of an attack, such as ransomware and threat hunting and so on and so forth. Now, when we think about entry vectors, we have a few layers that usually come top of mind, right? Let me open the product space. We have email. This is one of the most utilized entry vectors. Then we have internet traffic, which in our situation, it's called threat prevention or DNS security, patch and asset management. And also, let's consider malware and unauthorized software also as an entry point. So we have also the endpoint detection and the application control. This is what we'll cover in the first glance, right? So let's talk about email, right? Email has been a nightmare for any type of security person since the moment that attackers figured out that the weakest chain in your defense link is the human behind the computer. Why try to break down the defenses when you can actually ask somebody from inside to give you the key and open up the gate? So that's why everybody went towards email, and they made those email attacks more and more convincing. Now with the rise of the huge adoption in AI tactics like ChatGPT, so on and so forth, Hack GPT, this has become even more dangerous. Now, when it comes to email, regardless if you're already using, oh, let me switch this to a different account. Regardless if you're using the built-in security that comes with the platform that you have, the email hosting platform that you have, such as, I don't know, Microsoft or G Suite, you name it, right? There are still ways of them attacking you. Okay, somebody is saying, actually Julia is saying that he read an article, only 5% of all emails were actually sent human to human. Exactly. The rest of them, you can imagine what they are. Now, when it comes to email security, there are a few basics that you need to hammer down, right? And those are not complicated, they're basics. So let me open this particular domain, and let us go through those basics, right? First of all, you have DMARC and SPF. These are globally known practices or protocols that should always be top of mind when you have your security. Any type of security platform that you choose to secure your emails needs to be able to take care of DMARC and SPF, as well as TLS, which, if you want to compare TLS with something, you could compare it to HTTPS versus HTTP, right? So these three are basics that whatever you do, whatever email solution you choose, you need to have these very well set in place. If not, you're already exposing yourself to more risk than you can actually imagine. Now, I'll glance over some security features that that you guys might need. Then, spam, of course, is very important, but I will just hover over spam and phishing and stuff and go to security. In security, when it comes to the Heimdal engine, we have two versions of the email security: the basic and the ATP, the 365 and the ATP. Now, why is it important for people to actually pay extra attention to emails? Because once an item comes on your computer, if it actually manages to get into the memory of the computer before the antivirus takes effect or anything like that, it's very dangerous. As we were talking about those layers, right? Let me actually bring those layers back a second. I will need to revert back to these a few times. Okay. Okay, as we were talking about the email, let me put a pen over here. As we were talking about the email, right? First of all, email security is very important, but then you also have a lot of other factors that could assist you with the defense. You have user awareness, you have DNS security, you have antivirus and application zero trust that could help you out. However, if your email security, which is the first factor of defense, is very well capable of doing something like attachment reformatting, analyzing any macro, analyzing the code, literally analyzing every bit of code of the attachment that you're receiving, opening up the links that you're receiving to test what's on the other side of that particular URL that you're getting. If it has all these capabilities, the chance of you needing the antivirus, the DNS, and all the other layers to kick in is a minimum, right? So in that particular case, an email security that is actually up to par with what you need could actually do the trick and avoid all of these. Now, of course, there are other components that are present here that might help you out a lot, such as attachment settings. You can block any type of attachment that you wish, and you can decide what action is taken on them, including password protected files, which cannot be sandboxed automatically. Then, when it comes to users that you have not discussed with, let's say somebody is trying to phish you, and it's a spear phishing, and they're trying to spoof another domain. For example, let's say HeimdalSecurity.com. They actually type Heimdal instead of the L at the end of the word Heimdal. They put uppercase I from Indigo, right? Now, if something like that happens and your email security has the ability to find any type of domain that you have not discussed with in the past, whatever days you put here in the list, and tag it, when that email happens, in that particular moment, it will say, please be very careful. This is a sender which you have not discussed with in the last 1 to 90 days, which is again a very, very powerful component to have when it comes to the security. But also security is very aggressive, and security doesn't just have the purpose of securing stuff and that's it. Securing environments has the purpose of the CIA triad in cybersecurity, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability of your information security systems and data, right? So you cannot take security as a principle in itself. You need to take security versus the availability and operability of your business or of your customer, because we have both resellers in here, partners, as well as end customers. So even if this is very, very aggressive when it comes to the security itself, you also have the ability to send the quarantine email, the quarantine digest to each of the users. You can give them an end user console. You can send this every hour of the day if you wish. And based on this decision matrix, you can decide what is included in this report that they receive, what are they allowed to preview in a safe fashion. So this is a preview in an online format of said email, what they are allowed to release from the filter based on, again, these categories of particular threats that can happen. If they are allowed to put this particular sender in the allow list at the global level, meaning everybody from this company will be allowed to receive emails from this particular sender, or if they are allowed to just put this particular sender in their personal allow list. And all of this you can offload to the user itself if you deem them responsible enough to do that. But again, you can give them all this access only per some of the categories, right? Something like maybe this, right? And you can decide, this is your decision to do. Okay, so we covered email, but let's say this particular environment does not have email security, right? Let's go back to this one. If there's an email threat, again, we're talking about email, we also have user awareness and principle of least privilege, which we all know how we can do that, right? We need to make sure the users don't have access to more than they need, and that the users know not to click on fishy and suspicious stuff. But we also have DNS security, antivirus, and application zero trust. Okay. By the way, I'm sorry for my drawing artistry over here. I'm not the artist fellow myself. I like music, not painting. Okay, so let's actually get back to the console. And before we actually go into the next products, let's actually bring a virtual machine up and let's look at the virtual machine. So now the fun part starts. I am opening a virtual machine. Okay. It seems that today is working so good. No errors, no nothing. We're lucky today. The only error is the bug in my organism. Okay, now let's talk about the DNS part. Let's say we need DNS both for the security of emails, because anything they click on, a phishing attempt, anything like that will connect to a domain. If they download some malware and we don't have any other security, that malware will try to communicate and bring additional components. All of that, most of it is done via DNS requests. Now, when it comes to DNS, we need to understand that the danger is more than meets the eye, because if I connect to a website, and let me open a website here, let's say HBO, not HBO, yeah, let's do HBO, right? When we open HBO, we do not open just hbo.com. And this is something that people need to understand, and you can share this webinar with anybody that needs to understand this. Where is this? More tools, developer tools, network. Okay, let me refresh HBO and you see what happens. This is the number of requests. I hope you see my mouse. 57 requests have been done. 8.9 megabytes in resources have been loaded by the page. You have literally made a trusted connection with all of these at the same time. And this is the danger with the DNS. And this is something that's visible, but there's also the invisible part where your computer is communicating with all of these domains behind the scenes. And that's what you don't see. For example, I have this little script over here, right? Let's say this is an application. I just double click this application and things start to happen. I don't get to see anything appearing on my browsers or anything like that. However, let's see what happened in the backend when I did this double click on this application. And this could be just something that my user has either downloaded, put a flash drive in the computer and opened, or maybe they just grabbed it from an email and they have no clue what this is. So if I go back to the Heimdal portal for a second, let me move here, Heimdal portal, let's see what happened. Products, DNS. So I will move to, let's see, am I on the good date? Yes, I'm on today. Host name. And let me see which one was the machine I was on. Sales demo 5. This is the machine I opened, right? So if you look at what happened just a few seconds ago, right? I had the following: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 DNS connections to very suspicious command and control domains, right? So what do I do, right? What I have as options, of course, this is blocked right now, but what I have as options to understand what is this gibberish is to quickly go to VirusTotal, which is an automatic sync. Yes, I don't have admin rights, Soren, right now on this machine. Very important. I can get admin rights, and I'll show you about that. So this seems to be a clean environment, but when we go in relations, we see a lot of dangerous siblings. Let's click on this sibling. We see a few vendors flagging this as malicious. And when we go in relations, we see that a lot of vendors have discovered that files that are communicating with this website, which basically means you click on something, that file activates in your code on your computer, or files that are sending your computer to this website, have been found dangerous. Let's see, what is this? For example, it even says in the name over here, right? This is a phishing agent, right? Let's go back. Relations. Let's take this one. Even the name itself is pretty self-explanatory, right? This is a WannaCry attack domain that is still active after how many years? 10 years since WannaCry did its laps around the world. After 10 years, this is a WannaCry domain, right? So imagine this, and I'll show you a ransomware detonation in a few seconds. By the way, I need to stay on top of the clock over here because if I'm to go in the entire thing, I could even talk to you guys for 3-4 hours. But I know you don't have 3-4 hours to spend with me today, so I'll just limit it to 1 hour. Imagine this. I would have not had the DNS security to stop this. In this particular moment, let's get back to the PowerPoint over here. In this particular moment, if the DNS would have not stopped my WannaCry attempt, by the way, I hope you guys can see my PowerPoint now. It's for me in my preview window, it's showing that it's a bit delayed. I hope that oh, cool. Thank you, Soren. So if DNS security would have not stopped WannaCry for me in this example, right? And you saw how easy it was. I just double click on something. Then what do I rely on? I rely on the antivirus. I rely on application zero trust to make sure that these do not start in my system. So what would the antivirus do? Normally, the antivirus would stop the particular threat. The application zero trust, what would it do? We will get to these in full in a few seconds, but the application zero trust will not allow anything to run on my computer that is not approved by me. So that's quite a relaxing approach over there. But before we get to these in full, I also want to talk about patch management a bit. Why do I want to talk about patch management? It's the following. So imagine that on this computer, I have security locked down in the most aggressive fashion I can. But that means that I still have some applications that I trust. Let's take some examples like this one or this one or this one, right? In that case, if any of those applications have a vulnerability that allows remote code execution or that allows escalating privileges or anything like that, even with the most aggressive security, it becomes a cat and mouse game. It becomes a chase because they already have a foot in the environment. So that's why, as I said, email covers one big layer of security, patching the same, PAM the same. Those layers, if they are breached, it's very difficult to then fight the attack. So that's why I also need to do just a small coverage on the patching side, just so that I can rest assured that you guys know what this will help you with. When it comes to patching, Heimdal has two layers, applications within the OS and the OS itself, right? So when it comes to these, what Heimdal does is automatically keeps these up to date for you. We have over 200 apps that in 4 hours of the vendor release, you get the patch that has been checked for malware and checked for bloatware. And it also does it silently. On top of that, you have features such as push install, uninstall, rollback, delay install, make available as a catalog install. All of these are available for you to utilize. You can see what is currently out of date in your environment. Let me just refresh this page for a second. Okay, by the way, guys, questions, anything along the way, please feel free to push them in the chat. Okay, let's give it a second to refresh. This can also happen via schedule. And after it refreshes, I want to show you all the different views that you can look at. So you will see what has happened recently, like a rollback, a pure installation, an upgrade to a newer version. If it has a CVE or CVSS attached to it, you will see those visible over here, and so on and so forth. You can also see what is currently out of date. and you will see it red if you did not approve us to update it, or you will see it with white if the update failed, which will be re-executed each time the computer is available. You can look at historical vulnerabilities, and you can also check what was uninstalled with the system. Moreover, my favorite part in this one, and by the way, Soren, I will go to the Threat Hunting and Action Center as well. My favorite part with this one is that you can have a full visibility of all the software that has been installed. So if you don't use an approach like zero trust security, then something like this is vital so that you can see if any unauthorized software is present in your estate. Good. This also applies to operating system updates as well, because that can also have a massive impact within your environment. Now, we covered email, we covered DNS a bit, we covered patching a bit. By the way, guys, I don't have the time to go in full detail on all of these. As you can imagine, it's a lot of detail. So if anybody wants a full-on demo, I'll give you the chance to request that. Let's talk about the endpoint detection, and then the PAM and the app control, continuing with unified endpoint management and threat hunting and action center, which Soren has requested over there. When it comes to endpoint detection, with Heimdal, you have the next-gen antivirus that is, let's say, the EDR, that has the three components: antivirus, firewall manager, and extended threat protection, which is the basis for the threat hunting and action center. Now, when you look at these, why are these important? Because these will cover some basic layers that are very, very dangerous, such as firewall manager. It will allow you to catch any type of brute force that is attempted in your environment. So if anybody is trying to brute force passwords versus your endpoint, then the firewall manager will catch that and you can block the port automatically. And this, of course, will give you an alert. Moreover, you can manage your endpoint firewall rules in a mass at your entire scale. And also you can isolate endpoints upon command or automatically, depending on some certain triggers. So this is a powerful component to have. Next, you have the extended threat protection, which basically carries over 1,200 Sigma rules. And you might ask, what's a Sigma rule? These are Sigma rules, and they are special behaviors that are noticed in the machines when somebody is doing advanced attack components. For example, let's see, abusing Azure browser, abusing print executables, access to admin share, and so on and so forth. All of these are mapped to MITRE attack tactics and techniques. So you can see this is a lateral movement approach. This is a persistence action. This is a defense evasion. This is a privilege escalation. So this will actually show you what's going on. And this is the bread and butter of the Heimdal SOC team. That's what they use to be able to paint the full picture. And this collects telemetry from all the sources of telemetry available within the endpoint. And last, but definitely not least, the main engine over here, the antivirus. So with the antivirus, you do a lot of things. First of all, you can disable USB ports or restrict access to just some certain USBs. You have default actions of protection if the firewall is alerting a brute force, or if the next-gen antivirus catches any threats, or if the ransomware encryption protection catches anything dangerous. You can automatically isolate, you can automatically log the user out, or you can shut down. Shutdown is a good situation for smaller teams. If you're a big organization, never shut down the computer, because you need the memory artifacts or details to be able to do threat investigation. But this offers massive protection by default. Then, of course, you have zero trust protection, which means that nothing can execute in your environment unless it has a valid software certificate. And guess what? Malware usually doesn't. So this is, again, a very powerful move that you can apply. And of course, you have the basics that you need to find in any AV. A real-time file scan, real-time scan of network files, heuristic levels, cloud protection with automatic sandboxing, scheduled scans, and so on and so forth. So in a nutshell, this is the AV, and we will look at it in a few seconds on how it reacts on the computer itself. Now, let's also talk about the application control and PAM layer. What do these do? So the PAM layer is made from PEDM, which is Privilege Elevation and Delegation Management, and PASM is Privilege Account and Session Management. So think about it like this. PASM is the PAM for servers and secured connections. You can establish who is allowed to connect to where, what they're allowed to do, if they're admin, if they're not, you can have a recording of the session, and so on and so forth. It's super good for contractors, for people needing to perform maintenance on servers, and so on and so forth. PEDM is actually getting admin rights at the computer level. So you have people that need admin rights, but you know what risk an admin right locally can establish to the computer, right? When you have that on the computer, it's very dangerous. And let me show you. I'll open again the virtual machine, right? If you open users and we need to elevate, let's just elevate for this example. Demo webinar. Elevate. Yeah, no, let me just use a full elevation. Request admin rights. Ransom. Somewhere. I want to install ransomware. By the way, with elevations, you can either be automatically approved like I did in my demo environment, or you can have an approval flow. And the people can actually, that approve, can receive this also on their phones. So I am an administrator now. And if I open the user management portal, and if I find any administrators here, okay, I actually have a blocking over here. Let me just open this one with auto elevate. So if I ever have any people here like this one, and if this person has logged in recently, an attacker can harvest my token, which is very dangerous. So if I want to stay secured, what I need to do is make sure that I use any type of tool I have to do the following. Revoke existing local admins. And if you revoke them, you still have people that need to use local admin. So you saw how easy it is for me to get local admin. Of course, I would recommend not having it automatic like this, like you saw me getting it a few seconds ago, but having it on approval or even with a local token. Moreover, you have a multi-factor authenticator that you can enable. Of course, in my example, I did not enable the multi-factor because I don't want to waste your time. I just want to show you the big concepts in general. But when it comes to giving admin rights to your users, you need to be as careful as possible. And your process needs to be as secured as possible with this. Now, in some situations, you might give admin to a person. And when that person is admin, and I believe I'm still admin right now. Let me see. Yeah, I think I'm still admin. If that person is admin and they have a issue with a virus, right, that is starting on their computer. Let me use WannaCry again as an example. If I put WannaCry here, let's see what will happen. So I have the WannaCry virus on my screen. Antivirus detected the infected file. Access has been denied from admin rights. So in this moment, first, the virus has been neutralized. Second, my access as an administrator has been taken away and stripped from me so that the component, the virus, so whatever it is, can actually not do a lot of damage. And this is what I was talking with that unify all your layers. This is available for DNS and patching as well. So if DNS patching or the antivirus find anything very dangerous on my computer, I will be stripped down from being an admin. And in that moment, if I'm stripped down from being an admin, this particular threat cannot do as much harm as the others, right? Let's actually look at a different example again over here. So let's look at an example in which we use the zero trust mode. So for this, I will stop this session and I will connect to this funny guy over here called Groot. I think I need to put in a password. Okay, new session. Now I think I need to change the password here. Sorry, just a second. Let me see what's my password here. I don't know why it's not allowing me to connect. Yeah, I think this particular VM is down, but yeah, I'll just show you a different example then. I don't need this one. Okay, I'll show you another example now. I have this particular virtual machine over here called Echo. And no, Kevin, I'm not using a password manager. I have a bit of a trust issue over there. I know it's my personal trauma with the password managers. I know it's recommended, but I'm not using one. So we have this virtual machine called Echo, right? If I look in the Heimdal policies of this particular virtual machine, Echo, I want to see the situation where we have the ransomware security, and we do have the ransomware encryption protection security on. However, you'll see what we have here. We have it in reporting mode. That means that it will still detect what's going on, but it will not interact and not stop it. This is used for when you're implementing the solution so that you have a learning curve and you can create your allowed list. Now, let's look at Echo again and let's have some fun. So let's say they have compromised admin rights on the machine. Let's do a reason over here, uninstall software, ransomware, hacker@gmail.com. Again, guys, it's not this easy to get admin rights with Heimdal. This is just a demo environment so that I can show you, and I don't want to waste time in approving myself and so on and so forth. So I need to open command with admin rights. Okay, first of all, in the Heimdal policy, you have a way to disable allowing people with admin rights to open Windows processes like I just did over here, which is again dangerous. Again, another security layer that we should be wary of. So I have this particular path over here that I want to access. CD, paste, Maverick ransomware, space, command encrypt, right? So let me show you what normally happens with ransomware when it actually has the power to do something in your environment. See, it starts encrypting files, and this is an old ransomware. This is an old ransomware, so it basically started encrypting files and it stopped my computer from working with all these files encrypted. The demo screen is zoomed in. This is happening for colon. Is this happening for anybody else? It shows good in my preview window. That's why I'm asking. Oh, ignore that, resolved. Cool. Thank you, colon. Appreciate it. So this is what happens when ransomware is allowed to take place on the computer. But let me do AnyDesk again. And let's look at what happens with ransomware when I actually have a security layer that is looking for that specifically. So I'll open this demo environment again. And first, let's also check the policy and make sure that in my other policy, I have security on. Sales demo 5. Okay. Ransomware encryption protection, which will take a second to load. Okay, so this is not in reporting mode. It's actually in security mode, okay? So what do I need to do? I'll try to repeat literally the same action. Okay, let's ignore the mimikatz over here. Privileges, request admin rights, install software, ransomware. Nobody in their right mind would approve such a request, right? But for the demo example, we'll just go with it. Command line, run as administrator, elevate. Okay, good. I am in command line as an administrator, which again, it's one button and I would not be allowed to do this. Even if you give me admin rights using Heimdal, I would not be allowed to do this with one click of a button in the portal. So let's go into the test ransomware. Let's make sure this is not encrypted. It's not. And let's see what happens when you have the security on. So I'll go again, I'll navigate to this, Maverick, space, encrypt. Okay, now let's look at the files. Let's see what's happening here. So as you can see, it started, but it failed. It didn't get to encrypt anything. Because this is the difference when you have security looking at this particular layer. It will stop it in its tracks. It literally disabled that particular app instantly because it saw that it's doing ransomware behavior such as input output at kernel level, self-granting admin rights, disk corruption, and last but not least, the shadow copy tampering, so deleting my backups. This is what I'm saying with multi-layered. Multi-layered and unified will take care of all those little details so that you don't need to have 10 different tools connecting to a SIM, the SIM getting this information and pushing this into a SOAR, the SOAR detecting what's going on and sending back commands to each of your 10 layers. While that is happening, LockBit will encrypt your entire network. And that is the problem with the way we do security in today's world. We need to move very fast, and if we don't, we are opening ourselves and exposing ourselves to all of these dangers. And as I promised to, I believe it was Soren, that we are going to look a bit at the Threat Hunting and Action Center. Let's do that as well. Before going in there, some other layers that Heimdal does, but it doesn't necessarily help with security, more with operations, is you have the unified endpoint management where you can do BitLocker scripting as well as BitLocker management as well as scripting. You have a bunch of useful information about your devices, like let's take this one for example, operating system details, when it last had a reboot, when it was installed, what version, device information, internal, external IP, hardware information, and so on. You can extract logs from the computer. All of these you can do with this one unified platform. And then, of course, remote desktop is again another thing that you can do. And then we have the thing that glues everything together, which is called the Threat Hunting and Action Center. By the way, guys, I saw the questions. I'll get back to those immediately. But we have the last layer so that we can cover everything. The Threat Hunting and Action Center, which is an automated SOAR system. It comes out of the box integrated with all the Heimdal layers, so you don't need to spend 4 months of integrating, creating playbooks, and so on and so forth. You have a clear visibility over the endpoints with the highest risk so that you need to know where to start working. you have a risk score that will show you visibility over the last 30 days. You can go into the Action Center and literally see all these alerts in an aggregated fashion, which means that I can take one of these alerts, I can select an action, and after I select the action, I can apply this particular action for the next 7 days so that I don't need to come back to this action each time. I have all the Heimdal layers automatically patched into this, and all the actions that I will be suggested to take will be actions that apply to this particular type of detection. If I check page 3, for example, I have a third-party application that has a 6.5 score. What action would I have here? Install the freaking application, right? Then I have a Microsoft update that's missing. I have installed the Microsoft update, right? I have a vector N alert, which basically means the DNS machine learning layer, which is the additional layer of security on top of the AI neural networks, has had an action. What can I do? Quarantine the file that started this bad DNS, suppress detection if I approve of that file and I take the risk, investigate further, or resolve, right? And I also can look at this endpoint by endpoint. I can see a history of all the server commands, meaning what host name had what command running, what was the command description, what was the resolution, and what was the timestamp. And I can also see a history of all the details that each of these users that connect to my Heimdal portal and secure me have done within the last 30 days. So I have a full audit frame over here. Good. Now, the value with something like this is simple as possible. It takes a lot of the guessing work outside of work, because you can actually do what you need to do to resolve this practically. Now, if somebody would wonder what our SOC team does, they see this, but with all the customers that are involved in the SOC process, the managed detection and response, and they start working through each of the customers day to day, 24/7, 365. So this is what our SOC team actually uses on a daily basis so that they can operate and do their work. Now, if you zoom into a machine, you'll also see malicious DNS connections, where they're coming from. You'll also see brute force attacks that are coming, if you have any, with a white line coming to your endpoint, and so on and so forth. Now, I see we have some questions. Before we get to the questions, guys, this kind of concludes our short demo. Of course, there's a lot that I could show you and that we could go through, but we would need hours and hours to do that. Now, let me get back to where I was in the slideshow. Okay. Oh, good. So I am back in the slideshow, and I want to ask you guys one final cyber trivia question before I get to your questions. Are you guys ready? Put a yes or something in the chat so I know that you guys are ready. Perfect. Yes, everybody's ready. Then, how many endpoints does Heimdal currently secure? This is a funny one. This was one of my initial cyber trivia questions for the audience. Okay, we have 100,000, 3 million, 2.5 million, 3 million, 11. That would be sad if it would be 11 only. Or is it 11 million? Okay, let's see. Yes, it's 11 million. Thank you, Soren. That would be very, very nice to have that. Okay, so the winner is Julia with 2.5 million. It's 2.5 million plus. We're still not at the 3 million marker. And this information can be found on the Heimdal website along with other useful information. Yes, it is on the website if you scroll down. I usually don't try to complicate you guys with the cyber trivia. It's just for us to have fun, and like cybersecurity is not fun usually. So we try our best to make it as fun, but as serious as possible at the same time. Now, I am putting this beautiful Viking over here. with my contact details and the QR code to book a one-on-one Ask Me Anything.